This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should, too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Kristen and her husband Scott sailed a 7-night Western Caribbean cruise on Royal Caribbean's Wonder of the Seas, and she joins us on the line. How you doing, Kristen?
I'm good, as always. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited to talk to you about this because you're a 17-time Princess cruiser and making the jump. Well, I don't want to say making the jump. Well, yeah, kind of, over to Royal Caribbean to kind of test it out for the first time for you. I know your husband's done it before. So I've got a lot to unpack here. Before we get to the ship, though, let's take a step back. What made you want to do this 7-nighter on Wonder of the Seas since you've been so loyal to Princess for all these years?
Our friends Allison and Steve are celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary this year, and they wanted to do a cruise with us. They had done Royal Caribbean a couple times, and so we're kind of loyal, favorable to them. Scott had done, as you mentioned, one Royal Caribbean sailing with his dad, but I had never done Royal Caribbean. So we thought, yep, this is the opportunity. And originally, we wanted to book Icon of the Seas because as soon as the Icon class had been announced, Scott was very excited about that class. We'd never made it onto one of the Oasis class. He sailed Freedom. So we were looking to give that kind of size ship a try. But wow, the inaugural year pricing that Icon had was just absolutely insane. So we thought, how about we go the next newest ship and the second largest ship at the time, Wonder of the Seas. And that was much more reasonably priced. And we found this 7-night Western itinerary, offered a day at CocoCay, which obviously was a must for me to get to try. And a couple other ports were actually new to us as well, and new at least to one or more of our friends that were sailing with us. So that's how we ended up booking Wonder of the Seas.
I know you and Scott are part of the Disney Vacation Club. Any time to slip in Disney before Wonder?
No Disney this time.
Okay.
No, this was purely the cruise. And actually, we ended up staying the night in Orlando. When we looked to price out hotels in Port Canaveral, we found they were extremely expensive, at least for early June. And so we decided we would just get a hotel near the airport and then just take lift down to the port in the morning. So that's what we did.
So you make your way to the cruise pier. How was your embarkation process at Port Canaveral? And how did they do, in your opinion, comparing it to Princess, where you just have the medallion and it's kind of ding, ding, ding?
So we had gotten an 11:30 to 12 o'clock embarkation group. We ended up getting there about 10:55 and discovered, like almost all of our past cruising experiences, boarding groups don't mean a darn thing. So we were able to immediately check in and we were on board by 11:15. So it was extremely efficient, even without, as you mentioned, the medallion type process. The other thing I would say that I was very impressed with was, even though we could not go directly to our cabin at that point, the cabins were all made available at 1 o'clock. And when we went to our cabin, we discovered our luggage had already been delivered. And I've never seen luggage get to a stateroom that early. So that was really unexpected and very appreciated. So I was very impressed with the embarkation experience.
Yeah, that's efficiency right there. But I have to ask you, what were your first impressions of Wonder of the Seas juxtaposed against Princess, where you enter the Piazza area?
Right. So they had us come in on deck. Let's see. I guess that would have been deck 5. So you come in right on the side of Sorrento's in what they call their Royal Promenade area. So, it was definitely a lot of people in that area. So it was kind of chaotic. People were, getting signed up for drink packages, picking up their drink mugs if they'd gotten the soda package like we had. People were immediately hightailing it to Sorrento's to get that first piece of pizza. So I didn't really have a lot of chance to kind of take in that space. Obviously, over the course of the cruise, we would end up spending a nice amount of time in that area, which is, clustered with a few different, bars and, like I said, Sorrento's, a couple other dining pub restaurant areas. So so it's, it kind of had, my take on it was it felt actually more similar to the experience that we had on MSC Meraviglia, which had that same kind of a a promenade type feel, not so much, a kind of a circular central multi-story atrium like Princess has with the piazza, but more like that elongated, almost, obviously, in this case, not quite the whole length of the ship because there's a whole lot of other spaces on this ship, but similar to that feel that Meraviglia class in MSC has.
I remember walking onto my first Oasis class ship in 2009, and it just resembled a shopping mall to me for some reason.
Yeah, you can get that feel from it, sure.
You make your way to your stateroom. What kind of room did y'all book for this 7-night cruise, and what did you think of it throughout the week?
So we opted to go just for an ocean view cabin, saving a little bit more money. Both of our cabins were forward on deck 7. Our friends were on the side of the ship. We opted for the cabins, one of the ocean view cabins that's absolutely directly at the front of the ship. So in terms of cabin features, no complaints. Obviously, it's a brand new ship, so it's got the whole, modern neutral kind of color scheme. It's definitely equipped for today's modern travelers. So no shortage of power outlets and USB ports, including both at the desk area as well as on each nightstand side. Plenty of storage in terms of shelving, drawers, closet area. Bathrooms well designed, got the nice, large round glass door shower, plenty of storage along the sink vanity area, hooks in the bathroom, hooks also on the wall in the cabin, big flat screen TV. So I mean, really didn't really have any complaints with how the room was equipped. Mm-hmm. The uniqueness of this cabin being at the very far forward is it's an extra long cabin. The front window is slanted. And so it's not really space. There's like no furniture right there. I mean, there's not like a little chair or a little bitty mini sofa that you could, sit in to look out the window. Not that there wasn't really a great view anyway, because what you're basically looking out is the crew area out on deck 7. I can't remember if the helipad was out there as well, that area. But so you didn't have necessarily, I mean, there weren't really, I hardly ever saw anybody out there, but technically you really didn't have privacy. So there was just this Roman window shade that would go up and down to block the window. But like I said, it's this kind of a slanted area. So you couldn't really use it for much other than like if you wanted to, like we aired out, drying out swimsuits and snorkel gear and stuff like that. You had extra area and it was convenient for packing because you could unload the suitcases in that area and it wasn't like you were tripping over them like you normally are when you're trying to, pack that last day and you don't really have space to have all the suitcases out kind of thing. But yeah, other than that, you couldn't really use that extra space very well. The other thing that I ended up not particularly caring for it is, we knew going into the ship, obviously, big ship, we're going to get a lot of steps in. But having our cabin so far forward meant that we were taking extra levels of steps, an elevated number of steps. So every single day on this cruise, whether we were really in port or not, I mean, we were getting in like what I call Disney level type steps. I mean, 10, 15, 20,000 steps a day. I think that for this kind of ship, I really would look to probably book a little bit more centrally located just because didn't really need that extra level of steps on above and beyond what we got. So, but like I said, no complaints with how the cabin was equipped. Features, comfort, bed was great. Nicely appointed.
Did you miss that Princess hybrid walk-in closet though?
Well, I'm having to get used to that because, most other cruise lines don't have that, right? And we've been, hopping around to MSC and Celebrity, et cetera. And of course, the new Sun class doesn't have that either. Really? So I'm trying to get used to not having that nice walk-in closet. It is something I kind of miss.
It really does make a difference. Let's talk about dining here, switching gears, and talk about the buffet area, the Windjammer. So how was your experience up there throughout the week, and also the crowd situation? Because sometimes this class of ship gets pushed back about, the Windjammer was a little too crowded.
In terms of food, I would say the biggest disappointment area would have to be Windjammer in comparison to what Sister Line Celebrity is doing with their buffets or what Princess is doing. I think they made a big point about that this Windjammer on Wonder is the largest Windjammer of all of the Oasis class ships. And indeed it is in terms of seating, because they've got seating that not only is kind of near where the food stations are, but then continues and wraps all the way around. There's a lot of seating. What we were disappointed in is the actual food itself. We were disappointed to see that there wasn't as big a variety as I would have expected. I didn't see dishes rotated as much as I've seen on, say, on Celebrity or Princess, and really disappointed in the types of international cuisine that they offered. I would see much more robust offerings on Celebrity and Princess of Asian and Indian and even Latin foods. So, we ate a Windjammer, a couple times for breakfast. We ate, I think, once for lunch. We did not try Windjammer for dinner. So maybe they do a couple things special in the evening to augment what they offer for the buffet and dinner. I don't know. We did not try them for dinner, but I definitely would say that they ought to look to their sister line Celebrity at how to really do a high quality buffet, because we were disappointed in what we saw in Windjammer.
How about the Solarium food? That's known for it being pretty solid.
We did dine in the Solarium Bistro. We did it for both breakfast one time, and then we did it for lunch a couple times. Actually, that's where we headed to for embarkation, to try to get away from the typical embarkation day buffet crowds. Is we went to the Solarium Bistro. But then, like I said, we did go back I think once or maybe twice. The salad bar in the Solarium Bistro was pretty good. Allison really thought it was quite good. We sometimes found some items at breakfast, I think, that maybe we didn't necessarily had seen in Windjammer. We like that. Now the Solarium also offers a dinner option. It changes to like a Mediterranean type buffet. We did not try that. But yeah, we had some, I think we felt after we tried it, after we'd eaten there, I think maybe twice, we thought, okay, we kind of feel like we've exhausted the options at Solarium, because they didn't really rotate too much, the variety, as I recall. But certainly, it was nice to, like I said, a nice place to get away from those Windjammer crowds and have a little bit more of a relaxing, breakfast or lunch.
Sure. And we'll get to the main dining room here in just a couple of moments. But how about other areas? What would we say? El Loco Fresh, Boardwalk, Doghouse, Cafe Promenade. Did you hit those places up as well?
So we did not get to either the Boardwalk hot dog sausage place or Cafe Promenade, but we did make it to, we did of course try El Loco Fresh. Mm-hmm. I would say it's nice that there's a Mexican option. We enjoyed it. It definitely is not as good as Blue Iguana Cantina on Carnival, for sure. But we were happy that there was an option. It was nice to have that opportunity. We wish that they did breakfast. Unlike, again, another reason why Carnival's Blue Iguana is superior is you can get, breakfast burritos kind of thing. They did not offer breakfast at El Loco Fresh, only lunch and dinner. I think they serve until about like 6:00. So, but yeah, so we did that. We did also down in the Central Park area. We went to the Park Cafe. Mm-hmm. We did that a couple times. Once at breakfast, because we'd heard that they did a breakfast bagel bar, also for lunch. And namely, of course, we had heard much about the legendary, I'm not going to pronounce this right, the Royal Kummelweck roast beef sandwich.
Okay.
So I know Scott had at least 2 of those, I believe. I tried it once and it was good. So yeah, so we definitely did that. And then there is a Johnny Rockets on this ship. We weren't, that was not a real high priority for us, but at breakfast, it's free. Now, if you go for lunch or dinner, then, it's a pay venue, but they serve free breakfast. And so just as an alternative to kind of, vary things up, we did do Johnny Rockets one morning for breakfast. And it was fine. It wasn't anything super special, but, it was something different to get us out of the Windjammer kind of routine. So yeah, so we tried all those. We did, of course, also try some of this, Sorrento's pizza. For me, of course, it was the first time I'd ever had it. And, I would describe it, it's adequate. It is not as good as Princess. It is not as good as MSC. It's not as good as Carnival's pizza for sure. would have liked to have seen more variety of flavors and just, like I said, it's okay. I mean, it's free. You got a hankering for a piece of pizza. It fits the bill, but it's nothing was super special.
Other venues that had a lot of hype when the ship came out, the Mason Jar Southern Restaurant, I think, and also Hooked Seafood, either of those?
Yeah. So in terms of dinners, we did 3 nights in the main dining room and we did 4 nights in specialty. We did one of those 4 nights specialty with our friends. The other nights they either did the main dining room or they wanted to do chef's table one night since, like I said, it was their 20th anniversary cruise. And we didn't want to do a chef's table on this particular cruise. So, so we did 4 total specialty dining. So yeah, we did Mason Jar. We did that on our second night. And I'll just say, just right off the bat, all 4 of our specialty dining, fantastic service, great to amazing food, wonderful experiences. We were very pleased with our specialty dining. And all of those we had pre-booked. And one of the things that, I kept an eye on is what kind of pre-cruise savings you could get, because it seems like, every other week, right, you're getting an email from Royal, oh, here's such and such sale and you can save on, drink packages and internet and dining and yada, yada. What we discovered is that, and I can't remember exactly, I'd have to go back and look up our receipts when we paid for it, but there was one sale, they called it the Crown and Anchor member sale. And that one was a 20% discount. And I never saw a higher pre-cruise discount than 20% on specialty dining. So the Crown and Anchor member sale was the highest percentage off that we ever saw for specialty dining pre-booked, 20% off. So for what we paid also, we thought we got excellent, outstanding value. And we definitely made note in terms of on the survey that we got afterwards, we're sure to highlight our servers that we had in these various restaurants, because we just had really, really fantastic service and food experience. So yeah, so we did Mason Jar for dinner. They also do a brunch, and I'd say the next time that we go on either, I guess Wonder, and I know Utopia, I think Icon as well. And I'm assuming they're going to continue because it's been very popular, a Mason Jar going forward on all those ships. I think we try the brunch next time just to try it, because there are some different things that the brunch offers. But yeah, we did it for dinner and it was excellent. Yeah. We also did Izumi Sushi, and that was very good as well. The dinner that we had with our friends was Hooked Seafood, and wow, that was an incredible meal with lots of fantastic, of course, seafood. And then the last specialty dining that we did was Giovanni's, and my only regret with that is we did that. Scott and I did that on the very last night, and after a full week of all of this, fantastic food that we had, we got to Giovanni's and we just felt like, oh my gosh, if we'd wanted to we should have done this earlier in the cruise when we had more food capacity, I guess, because we felt so stuffed by the end of the cruise that I don't know that we appreciated Giovanni's quite as much as we could have. We asked the waiter, our server, to help us, because we're like, can we split a couple things? And he was like, here, why don't we do this so that, and he was really helpful and because I hate wasting food, I just that's personal things. So yeah, so I wish I would have done Giovanni's earlier in the cruise, because by the last night, oof, that was a lot. But yeah, absolutely, thought that the specialty dining was right up there with specialty dining that we've done on Celebrity, that we've done on Princess, and really liked some of the unique ones, especially like Mason Jar having a Southern Cajun Creole kind of restaurant option. Yeah. So yeah, very, very favorable specialty dining.
And not to jump ahead, but this is a good first-time tip as well, or maybe you've cruised dozens of times. I know on Sun Princess, we did back-to-back-to-back. We did Sabatini's Crown Grill in the Butcher's Block, so 3 specialty restaurants. And in hindsight, because by the third night, I was like, I don't want to seafood because it's all so rich and everything, right? So yeah, it can catch up with you if you're not careful. So space those meals out if you want to enjoy it.
I know, right, exactly.
Yeah. Let's go to the main dining room now. I know I kind of skipped over that. How does it work with 7,000 people on board? I know it's multi-stories, but are there different dining rooms around the ship or just one big multi-story dining room?
We went with anytime dining. We did go ahead and pre-book all of our dining reservations ahead of time, just because, like I said, we weren't really sure what to expect with a ship of this size. And we thought, and especially since, we wanted to have, meals together. So we did 3 nights in the dining room. Like I said, our friends did a couple more nights in the dining room on their own. And we ended up, it just so happened, we ended up booking 6:45 for all 3 of those nights. We are definitely glad that we had the reservations, because when we went to the dining room, and I think I had looked it up. One level was completely the traditional, an early seating and a fixed seating. That was one of them. I think that was the lowest deck 3. Then deck 4 was like a half and half thing. I think they had another early seating fixed time. And then after a certain point, then I think they took any time. And then one level was completely any time. But when you got to the one that was completely any time, they segregated you whether you had a reservation or not. And every time we went down for our time, wow, the line for people without reservations was ginormous. Whereas us, we maybe waited 5 to 10 minutes once we got, up, got to the line and up to the podium, the host stand to check in. So we were glad we had made reservations in advance. So we did the first night, Welcome Aboard. We did night 5, which was Taste of the Caribbean. And then night 6, which was what they call the Royal Night. And that's the night that they serve lobster tail in the main dining room. And we had very nice service in the main dining room. We ended up getting the same waitress, server, at least for us a couple times. And our friends, I think, ended up having her at least 1 or 2 more times. And so it just happened to be where they sat us was in, her area of the dining room. And so, we had very nice service, and we were overall very pleased with the food in the dining room. And in fact, it was, like I said, some of these above and beyond things. So, Steve and Allison had made mention to the, to the maitre d' the night of the lobster tail night that, it was that, they were here for celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary. He had them bring out an extra lobster tail for all of us. And now in the main dining room, that costs extra. Mm-hmm. It was touches like that we experienced, with service that was just, you don't necessarily see that all the time anymore. We didn't have any of this, oh my gosh, we're here in the dining room for 2+ hours and things are just dragging on. Everything was, was very, very, not rushed, but, efficient. And so we were pleased. We were pleased with what we had in the dining room and with the service.
Can't beat a good lobster. Hard shell, no backbone, coursing through your veins. Yes.
This was the cruise of lobster tails, because I forgot to mention. So at Hooked, they have one of the entrees that you can get it's twin lobster tails. That's one of the things that you can order. And we had ordered that. And then our server, again, another fantastic server, brought us all out another one. So we had 3 lobster tails the night of Hooked Seafood. We had 2 lobster tails in the dining room. I mean, this was the cruise of lobster tails. It was quite something.
It sounds like it. Wow. How was the entertainment on this 7-night cruise? I mean, there's a lot to unpack there too.
Yeah, there is. We had heard about, the importance of making reservations pre-cruise. And so we did that. So we carefully kind of planned out when we wanted to go to things based on what dinner reservations we had made. We did do the Aqua Theater show. On Wonder's show is called Intense. It's exclusive to Wonder show. I really enjoyed the Aqua Theater show because obviously, again, here's something that's unique, right? You don't see this you don't have aqua theaters on other cruise lines, other cruise ships. So that was definitely, one of the unique to Oasis Class Royal that I definitely wanted to experience. And it was a fantastic show. Really, really enjoyed that. We did the ice skating show. Again, here's another unique facet to Royal's entertainment. It's a new show for Wonder. It's called 365 Seasons on Ice. And, they talk about, and it's legit. I mean, you're not talking about, your run-of-the-mill, no offense, but run-of-the-mill cruise ship entertainment folks out there getting on ice skates. No, You're talking about people that were professional figure skaters, ex-Olympians, etc. So it's a very high quality experience. It is, of course, a little chilly in there. So if you tip, might bring a sweater if you're one inclined to be a little chilly, because they definitely have to have the temperature cranked down in the ice skating venue. But it was a wonderful show. Very, very glad we saw that. We did go to the 2 production shows that they have on Wonder. Unfortunately, there's no big Broadway kind of type show on this cruise. So it's in-house royal designed production shows. So we went to Voices, which is an exclusive to Wonder show. Really sort of, if you want to call it an homage to a cappella music. You don't necessarily see a cappella music featured in a production show type venue. So kudos for doing something a little bit unique from that perspective. The other production show was called The Effectors 2 Crash and Burn. This is apparently a sequel to a show that Wonder, or I guess Royal, has had on older ships called The Effectors. I wasn't really familiar with it. It's definitely a family kid sort of focus to the production show. So it's not one that I would ever go back to see again. But, hey, first time, got to check the box, see what it's about. The drones in the show were pretty cool, I have to say. There's one segment where there's a lot of lasers. That was kind of cool. But, So we did that. And then we did the adult comedy show, and they were quite funny, nice. It's a kind of a cozy venue, I would say, not quite as cozy as the comedy venue on, say, Norwegian Viva. That's really cozy, aka undersized. It was a nice venue. It's the comedy show reservations are pretty tough to get, so that's for sure one that if you're interested in doing, and you can only pre-book one show. I assume you could go to multiple shows if you wanted to queue up for some standby seating if they offered it. I don't really know if they did, but yeah, if you're interested in the comedy, definitely snag a pre-cruise reservation for that. So yeah, so we did all of those shows. We also watched the Anchors Away parade during the day that they offered that twice. It's really hard to describe this thing they do in the Royal Promenade. It's quite the little spectacle. So we did go watch that one of the days that was offered. I think that was our major entertainment things.
So let's talk about sea days as far as crowds and congestion. How did it pan out for y'all?
So one of the sea days we wanted to do time in the solarium. That's one where if you want to spend time in the solarium, yeah, you better be getting there early, because all the choice seats are surely taken early, because there's a lot of variety of style seating, different levels in that solarium. But we did manage to find some lounge chairs, and we spent some time on the first sea day in there. I would say that, they talk about the fact that, the solarium is supposed to be climate controlled, right? Well, it was that AC, if it didn't really cool things down a lot. It was definitely on the warm side in the solarium. Mm-hmm. So maybe you like that, maybe you don't. I know that they talked about how, it's climate controlled, at least if the ship is deployed in the summer in the Caribbean, it's going to be a bit toasty in there. So, mm-hmm. But like I said, we spent some time and enjoyed that. We did do bingo a couple times, so that was a sea day activity for us. Bingo was pretty popular, partly because, at least the first day we did it, they were giving away $1,000 each game, and that's the most generous we have ever seen for cruise ship bingo. They were quite generous with the prize money there. So yeah, so we did that. And then, but we didn't really try to spend any time in the main pool deck area on that sea day. Now, we did try to do that on the last sea day. We were able to find some nice seating for that pretty reasonably. So again, with the size, that's one of the things, people asked me about, well, gosh, didn't you feel like, felt the effect of 7,000 people on that ship? Well, this ship is so damn big. There's so much area for people to spread out in that where I felt it was that big a ship was, like I said, the step count that we had to do every day. More that than feeling the people congestion aspect, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. How about by the pool? Does it complement the amount of people that are on board the ship?
I think so, just because there are multiple pool areas. So on the big, I was trying to look at a deck plan here to see, because there's like, obviously with the central area split, down the middle of the ship, right? So there's a pools on both sides of that. It seemed like, there was a fair amount of people there, but it didn't seem like it was totally overcrowded. It seemed okay. Like I said, we didn't spend a ton of time on the main pool deck, so maybe at different times, at least for the little bit of time we spent, it was okay.
Casino Royale, of course, their casino on board, kind of low on the ship, but did you get to walk through there or check out the art by there and the smoke situation in and around it?
We did walk through there a few times. We spent a very short amount of time. They actually do have a separate non-smoking casino room on there, which we did also go into. I would say I think for most of the time when we walked through, we kind of all commented like, I don't really smell any cigarette smoke. Maybe one time we noticed it a little bit, but they seem to have a pretty good handle, I guess, on the smoke situation, at least in the main casino, because we were walking through it, kind of bracing ourselves, waiting for it to hit us, and we're like, okay, didn't really smell too much. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about your ports of call on this 7-night Western Caribbean cruise. What we'll do here, like we always do, give us your first port of call, the highlight, and we'll move to the next one.
Our first port of call was Perfect Day at CocoCay. This was my first opportunity to be there. Scott had gotten to go there before on the Freedom of the Seas cruise that he had taken with his dad. We opted to not do any paid extra stuff. It seemed like there was plenty to do on the island to enjoy for free, and so that's the philosophy we went with for this one. So we had read a tip that if you want to go to the Oasis Lagoon pool, do it first. It's less crowded earlier in the day, and that proved absolutely correct. We headed there first when we got off the ship around 9:00, and we had some very nice pool time there. We enjoyed that for the morning. And then about noon, we went over to the Chill Grill for lunch, which, had the typical kind of island buffet type foods, burgers, dogs, fries, cold salads. But I would say a nice kind of option that I haven't seen on that kind of typical, island buffet was a Mexican station. So you could do tacos, chicken or pork carnitas, selection of toppings, rice, beans. So that was a nice extra option, I thought. And then you had, cookies and soft serve were available for dessert. So that's what we did for lunch. And then after lunch, we headed over to the Chill Island beach area to have some, time in the ocean. And that's also where there are quite a few hammocks. Before it closed, we hopped over to the snack shack to get the mozzarella sticks to have a little mid-afternoon snack. And then we headed back to the ship, I guess, around 3:30. And one of the things that was very unique about this, and the captain had mentioned this, that it was a very rare day because we were the only ship. Typically, I guess, there's usually 2 ships. So we had the whole island to ourselves. As far as private island goes, I rate it pretty highly. We've been to several private islands now. I think the next time we go, actually, we're probably more likely to go again via Celebrity, because now Celebrity is doing, their sister line is doing itineraries that feature stops at Perfect Day. So that's more likely the next time we get back to Perfect Day at CocoCay will be probably on a Celebrity cruise. And I might like to try there's a beach club that you can pay. It's, so it's extra, but you get, some nice perks, some upgraded food. So I think I might like to try that kind of upgraded experience maybe. But I mean, honestly, just for free, the basic stuff that the island comes with, and it made for a very, very, very nice beach day.
And then what was up next?
So then we had a sea day, and then our next port of call was Cozumel. We had suggested to our friends that we go to Nachi Cacon Beach Club. I know you're well familiar with that, Doug.
Oh, yeah.
We, of course, Scott and I had been there, but, we just remember that we had a wonderful time. Nachi's an all-inclusive They cap attendance. It's 130 guests a day now, which is a little bit more than what they used to have, but still, I mean, that's a pretty small number. And it's still, pretty reasonably priced, $69 a person. And that gets you unlimited drinks and lunch, which you got a choice of an appetizer, a super salad, an entree, and dessert. Honestly, I think we were so full that we even didn't have dessert. I think. And we opted to add on a snorkeling excursion. We had a little bit of a mix up with the time. We thought we had reservations at 9, but we apparently didn't get to, because we didn't get to Nachi until about 8:45 after, with the taxi from the port. So we ended up having to do our snorkeling at noon, which it didn't end up being a really big deal. But yeah, so we did snorkeling for about an hour. And it was very reasonably priced for that. And then, yeah, we had a very nice day, took a taxi back, and we were back at the cruise port by about 3:45. So we were there well back in plenty of time before our all aboard time at 5:30. Mm-hmm. It turned out to be a nice day.
What was up next?
Then the next day we were in Roatan. So this is one of the new ports for Scott and I. And we went with a private tour. We went with Ronnie's Tours, which is a tour operator that is well regarded. You see lots and lots of favorable comments and recommendations on both Cruise Critic and TripAdvisor for them. And our driver/guide was Arnold. And as soon as he introduced himself, I was totally excited because I knew from my pre-cruise research that Arnold was one of the most experienced driver guides that Ronnie's has. He's been doing this for 20 plus years. So I knew that we were in very good hands for this tour. And it's a customized island tour. So it's what you want it to be. So what we opted to do was the island, to do the island kind of sightseeing. So he basically, he took us all around the island, stopped at a couple places for, photo stops, etc. And then went to the areas that we wanted to go. So we went to the Maniwaki Animal Sanctuary. So we got to interact with the big attraction was with sloths. That was something I'd never done before. There were quite a few other tours that were there at the same time. So it was a little bit more rushed than I would have liked, but it was still fun, something unique. Also, monkeys and a red macaw were the other animals that were there at the animal sanctuary. And then we also went to the Rusty Fish Craft Market. So I really like to go to places where to have the opportunity to purchase souvenirs or things that are made locally. And this is a craft area, so all of the stuff was handmade by folks, local in Roatan. And then right next door is the Mayan Chocolate Factory, so we went to that as well. So yeah, so it was about a half-day tour. We had a fantastic time. So highly recommend Ronnie's Tours and highly recommend Arnold as the driver guide. It was a great experience.
Love it. And what was up next?
And then next was Costa Maya. This was another new port. Allison had been there once before, on her Princess cruise, but it was new for Scott and I. Now here we were in port only from 7 to 2. And so since we had limited time, we thought we would go the safer route and go with a ship's excursion in order to go to the Chichoban Mayan ruins. I'd done some research, had identified maybe a potential private tour operator, but just with that, if we'd been in port all day, I would have had no problem pulling the trigger on a private tour. I'd read enough that with a shorter time, and some people have talked about maybe some traffic kind of issues in Costa Maya, even though we were the only ship in port, it seemed like that the ship excursion would be the safer route. So that's what we did. Did the Chichoban ruins, the exclusive drive, which meant that we were in a small tour bus van. There were 12 of us. So we weren't like on a mega, 40 whatever passenger, cruise bus. We were in a smaller group tour, which was definitely the way to go. It's about an hour and 10 minutes drive to and from the ruins. And then we had about an hour and 15 minutes at the ruins. It's an active tour. It's an active walking excursion, step climbing. We had the opportunity to see several different structures there. We were, Scott and I had been to Tulum before in terms of Mayan ruins, but that had been many, many years ago. And so we were excited to see something else from a Mayan rune perspective. The first rain of the season happened that day. So we went through heavy rains on the drive to the ruins. Luckily, we only had a couple kind of brief showers at the ruins. So we packed, we were prepared with rain gear, but most of the time it was cleared up, which was good. But so we got the opportunity to see that. We were back early because it was only a 4-hour tour. So it's like we had kind of, like I said, a bonus half sea day. And that's when we had spent time on the pool deck.
And then straight back to Port Canaveral after that?
The second of the 2 official sea days was the last day of the cruise. And then we were back, And then we were back in Port Canaveral. Mm-hmm.
You're, making your way back there. You're sailing. You're having a good time, kicking back some cocktails, and you get that letter in your room, or maybe you don't, saying, how do you want to get off the ship? How does Royal do that before you get to Port Canaveral?
I believe we had to tell them, I think, what time our flights were. And so then they assigned us a disembarkation group. Now, one of the things that with Royal, I mentioned, it was great right at the beginning when we got on and our rooms were available at 1:00, man, and luggage. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a cost for that. And that is the fact they want you off that ship fast. Faster, I think, than what you typically will see. Most other cruise lines that we've been on, your last disembarkation groups are close to, 9:30, 10 o'clock. Oh no, they were wanting you off fast. So our disembarkation group was number 21. And we were called at 7:30 in the morning to go. Now, we were still having breakfast at that time, and we had a 3 o'clock flight, and our friends were about the same time for their flights back to Chicago as well. So we weren't really in a hurry to get off the ship. So we didn't get off right when they called our group. We wanted to finish our breakfast, but we got off and we were through customs by 8:30.
That is pretty efficient. How did you get back to the airport? The same way, Lyft?
We didn't have anything arranged beforehand, and we thought we potentially would take Lyft back to the airport, but I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was well north of $100 to get an Uber Lyft, and there was they called it the Airport Canaveral shuttle, mm-hmm. and it was $30. And they would go to the airport. And so we're like, you know what? Let's not worry about, because obviously we had, you have 4 people. We had between us, I think we had like 7-8 suitcases. If you're going to do Uber or Lyft, you got to have like the XL type thing, or risk having somebody show up and does not have a vehicle big enough to accommodate your luggage. And we're like, you know what? Let's just do this shuttle route. It seemed like that would be the better bet. So we did that. So we took the Airport Canaveral shuttle, and we were at Orlando Airport by 10:15. So we had plenty of time for our, 3 o'clock, 3:30-ish flights. So,
all right. Well, do you have any first-time tips to offer anyone sailing Wonder of the Seas or doing this Western Caribbean itinerary?
Yeah, I have a couple. So one thing that was a surprise was in the bathrooms, in the cabins, and apparently this is true for all cabin types except for suites. What they provide you in the shower is a combo body wash hair product.
Okay.
And I've just always been skeptical of how can one product possibly be good for both body wash and hair. Mm-hmm. 2, of course, if you have your own hair type needs, bring your own shampoo and conditioner, because you aren't getting it on board the ship unless you're happy with this combo body wash hair thing. So that would definitely be a tip. If you're getting the soda package, and they have Coke Freestyle machines on board this ship, and there are a few of them available. Windjammer, of course, the buffet has them. El Loco Fresh has got a Coke Freestyle machine, and so does Sorrento's. They have a couple. But there's also a machine in the Park Cafe, and I feel like that machine's kind of a hidden location. I mean, it is, of course, if you pull up the deck plans on the app, it's clearly marked there. But the times that I was in there, it's kind of tucked around a corner. So I'm not sure that a lot of people would find that location. Mm-hmm. So that would be a tip if you've got the soda package and you're looking for a less crowded place to fill up your beverage container. That machine in Park Cafe might be a good choice. As I mentioned already, if you get chilly easily, you want to bring a sweater to Studio B for the ice show, because it's definitely chilly in there. Yeah, and then again, as I mentioned with the cabin location, Sometimes, the recommendation, for people who are prone to motion sickness is, recommendation is always to be more midship for that purpose. And, but I would definitely say another consideration would be the step count, because I didn't need that extra level of steps of having that far forward ocean view cabin. So we would definitely consider being more midship located. And honestly, we'd consider, we're one of those kind of people that normally we end up having a balcony, right? And we like having the ocean views, right? So having a balcony that has an interior facing, which you see on these kind of ships, we were always kind of like, who would want that? Well, one exception to that might be Central Park. And I didn't really talk about that too much, but while the Central Park area where they have all of the plants and trees and all of that, it's really quite lovely. It has a whole different kind of, obviously, scenery, but also kind of a vibe area in comparison to, the raucous area of, Royal Promenade, or even the back area, the boardwalk area where there's the carousel and all of that. So we might consider booking a Central Park view balcony, just because, like I said, it's a unique and kind of serene type area, and again, midship to help with that step count. So I think those would be my tips.
I meant to ask you during the sea days and like when you were going to dinner and such, I don't remember if you and Scott are exclusively stair folks or not, but what were the speeds of the elevator? Yeah,
I think the elevators seem to be pretty good. I don't recall having to wait exceptionally long time periods for the elevators. So those, and they're not the smart elevator. You see that on a lot of new ships, right? The smart elevator technology. They didn't have those here. These were just, your regular kind of elevators. But I think they seem to work pretty well. And I don't think that we had to wait really real long times for them, as I recall.
The biggest highlight of this 7-night cruise for y'all?
One was definitely our experience from a food and service perspective in both specialty dining and the main dining room. The alternative dining that they have is okay, Loco Fresh, Sorrento's, whatever. They're really nailing it with regard to specialty dining. And like I said, and our experiences, everybody has different, you hear different things, right, about main dining room experiences. But for us, it was very high marks. So I would say that was definitely a highlight. The other thing I would say is the absolutely unique type of entertainment that Royal offers that you don't see on any other cruise ships or cruise lines. The Aqua Theater and the ice show. Those are just unique things that you just don't see elsewhere. And they were really well done. And I, definitely made for a unique aspect to the cruise for sure. And a third thing I throw in is perfect day at CocoCay. Definitely one of the top tier cruise line private islands, for sure.
In closing, your final thoughts of Wonder of the Seas.
We had a great time. We've been on some big ships. Obviously, this is, at the time, because Utopia hadn't debuted yet as of beginning of June. So we were the second largest cruise ship in the world. But, we'd heard this about Oasis Class, that they do a really good job of having space for people to spread out, being very efficient with their processes. We saw that with embarkation. We saw that with disembarkation. And that, it really didn't feel like you might think a 7,000 passenger, cruise might feel. We certainly didn't see that in terms of, you're not going to get great service with that many people, or not going to get, maybe the best food with that. That was definitely not our experience. We had a wonderful, wonderful time. I don't know that, we're going to become Royal diehards, but man, I'll tell you, the loyalty society changes that Royal recently made, basically the reciprocal type status that you get, which we had going before they made those changes. They were already doing that between Celebrity and Royal, then they've added in their Silver Sea luxury into cruise line into this mix. But you get some nice perks on Royal coming over as a Celebrity elite cruiser, which we are. So yeah, it made for a really, really nice quality cruise, and we'll throw in some more Royal at some point in our cruising plans for sure.
I've been talking with Kristen about her 7-night cruise on Royal Caribbean's Wonder of the Seas out of Port Canaveral. Kristen, as always, thank you so much for sharing this 7-night review with us, and tell Scott hello and look forward to talking to you next time.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Doug.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,